Imagine a 55-year-old mother, barely able to walk without support, facing sleepless nights, unbearable pain, and silent humiliation, all to save her son's eyesight. Now imagine that same mother, at the very last moment, realizing she's still short on money and making a decision no one else would dare, selling her only crutch. What happened next will move you to the core. Mary Ann had always walked slowly, not by choice, but because her body gave her no other option. At 55, her fragile knees and chronic lower back pain had turned every step into a challenge. Ever since the car accident years ago, she relied on a pair of crutches that seemed more like an extension of her soul. A simple woman from Alabama, with a sweet voice and an ever-serene gaze. She was the kind of brave mother who never complained about life, even when life seemed determined to test her. She lived with her only son, Andrew, a 21-year-old young man, creative, polite, full of dreams, and blessed with a rare musical talent. After Andrew's father left when he was only 5, Mary raised her son alone, facing every possible hardship. Between odd jobs, house cleaning, and small sewing gigs, she kept their home afloat with dignity. She was the kind of mother who would endure the cold so her son could have a blanket, who ate whatever was left after he served himself, and who smiled with her heart, even when she was crying inside. Their house was modest, with old furniture, but clean and welcoming. A small porch with a rocking chair and a garden full of daisies, flowers Mary said were as tough as single mothers. There, among sunny mornings and bitter coffee, life went on, until the day everything changed. Andrew had gone out to buy new guitar strings. He was riding his bike back when a distracted driver ran a red light. The impact was violent. By the time Mary reached the hospital, he was already in surgery with a head injury and multiple abrasions. But the most devastating news came the next day. The blow had caused severe optical displacement. He was losing his vision, fast. The doctors were clear. There was an expensive, highly specialized surgery that could save Andrew's eyesight, but it wasn't covered by public health care, and the total cost exceeded $24,000. The hospital gave a deadline, 3 months. After that, the surgical team's schedule would move on to other patients. Mary, who could barely keep working as it was, felt the ground vanish beneath her feet. She spent the entire night in an armchair, staring at her son's room, where he slept with his eyes bandaged and his spirit wounded. When the sun rose, Mary had made her decision. She would get that money, even if she had to scrub every inch of every hotel in Alabama with her bare hands. That was the beginning of a brave mother's real journey. First, Mary recorded a short video for social media. She never liked being in front of a camera, but this time was different. She sat in her rocking chair, propped the phone up on a pile of books, and recorded. "My name is Mary Ann. I'm Andrew's mother. My son is going blind and needs urgent surgery. I don't have the money, but I'm willing to work, to fight, to do whatever it takes. If you can help with anything, any amount, or recommend a job, I'll be forever grateful." The video was simple but heartfelt, and sincerity has a power that breaks through screens. Within days, messages began to arrive. People offered small donations. Others invited her for occasional cleaning jobs. But one hotel manager in Montgomery offered something more solid: night shifts, 3 times a week. Mary didn't hesitate. That first night, she arrived dragging her crutches, but her eyes were full of determination. She cleaned entire hallways, alone, in the middle of the night, with her back screaming for relief and her arms aching in pain. Some nights she could barely make it back home, but she kept going. To her, every folded towel was one step closer to Andrew's surgery. Every changed sheet, another chance to bring his eyes back to the world. On top of that, Mary began selling cakes in the neighborhood. Using a family recipe, apple cinnamon cake. She baked on weekends, took orders, and delivered them with help from a younger neighbor. Sometimes, even in pain, she'd walk 5 blocks carrying boxes in her hands and hope in her soul. The online campaigns kept going. She updated donors with pictures of Andrew smiling, messages written by him, voice notes thanking them. The internet played its part. Distant friends, old classmates, even strangers touched by her story started contributing small amounts. But most of the money came from sweat, from sleepless nights, from dawns where, while the world slept, Mary bent down to scrub cold floors, always whispering a silent prayer. Just a little more. God, give me strength. During the 2nd month, things got harder. Her body no longer responded the same. The crutches were worn down, her shoulders ached, and the back pain was constant. But she didn't stop. She started taking painkillers to endure the night shifts and hid her tears in the hotel bathroom between changing sheets. Andrew tried to stay optimistic. He knew his mom was doing something extraordinary, but Mary never told him how much she was sacrificing. She simply said everything was under control, that things were moving along, and asked him to just rest and trust. By the end of the 2nd month, the campaign had reached an impressive amount, nearly $2,900. Only a few days remained until the hospital's deadline. Mary had already sold everything she could in the house: the TV, the microwave, even some family jewelry. In the final week, she secured a few more donations, squeezed in an extra shift at the hotel, and finally, on the morning of the deadline, she held an envelope with $24,000 in cash. But there was a catch. The hospital only accepted wire transfers. The money needed to be in their account by 8 p.m. that day. It was a Friday, and after 8, the surgery would be rescheduled, with no guaranteed new date. Mary rushed to the bank, still in her hotel uniform, hands sweaty and heart racing. The line was long. The clock ticked faster than ever. When she finally reached the teller and handed over the envelope, the man typed the info in and frowned. Mary froze. "Ma'am, you're $100 short." The world spun. She searched her purse, counted again, explained it was all she had. The teller was kind but firm. "Without the full amount, I can't complete the transfer." She looked at the clock. 7:27 p.m. She had 33 minutes to find $100, or see her son's operation postponed, maybe for months, maybe forever. There was no time for tears. She thanked him, limped out of the bank, and jumped into the first taxi she saw. "Take me to any pawn shop! Fast!" The driver, seeing her trembling, stepped on the gas. Mary clutched her crutches tightly. Her heart beat like a drum. She knew exactly what she had to do. The taxi screeched to a stop in front of an old pawn shop downtown. The flickering sign read, "Cash and trade. We buy everything." Mary got out with difficulty, her sweaty hands slipping on the crutches. Her legs were shaking, not just from pain, but from the crushing urgency on her shoulders. She took a deep breath and walked in. The air was stuffy, heavy with dust and old metal. A middle-aged man with a tired face and scruffy beard stood behind the counter. "Good afternoon. I need to sell this," Mary said, extending her crutches. The man stared at her for a moment, puzzled. "You want to sell your crutches?" Mary nodded, swallowing hard. "They're reinforced aluminum, almost new. I need $100, urgently." He looked at the crutches again, then back at her, and let out a heavy sigh. "These aren't even worth half that," he replied, a mix of coldness and pity in his voice. Mary didn't flinch. "I'm not selling for market value. I'm selling for my life, and for my son's life." The man went quiet. Then he opened a drawer and, with the kind of motion that says he knew this was more than just a deal, he counted out exactly $100 in small bills. "Here, but are you going to be able to walk out of here without them?" Mary took the money with trembling hands. Her eyes were brimming, but she didn't let a single tear fall. She looked at him and answered, A brave mother walks as far as she needs to, even if it's on her knees. She left the shop leaning on furniture, walls, door frames. One customer looked alarmed. Another stepped aside. Mary didn't care. All she wanted was to make it back to the bank in time. She hailed another cab, now in double the rush. The driver fell silent when he noticed she had no crutches. She gripped the front seat, teeth clenched in pain. The ride felt endless, but at 7:54 p.m., she arrived. Staggering, she entered the branch, nearly collapsing at the stairs. At the counter, she handed over the $100 bill like she was handing over part of her soul. The same teller looked up, surprised. "You came back? Just make the transfer, please," Mary said, before her body betrayed her strength. She watched the screen confirm the transaction. The money was in. The surgery would happen. Mary left the bank like a soldier crossing the last battlefield. Outside, she leaned against a pillar and stood there, breathing heavily. She didn't cry. Not yet. She texted Andrew. "Everything's set, son. The surgery's happening tomorrow." His reply came minutes later, full of emojis and joy. "You're amazing, Mom. I love you." That night, she returned home with help from a neighbor who noticed the missing crutches. "Mary, where are your crutches?" She smiled, pale and exhausted. "Not feeling much pain today. I think my body's getting used to it." The neighbor nodded, suspicious but didn't press. Mary locked herself in her room and, for the first time in months, cried in silence, cried in relief, cried from pain, cried because she had made it, and because she didn't know how she would get out of bed the next morning. On the day of the surgery, the hospital was busy. Andrew, his eyes still covered, held his mother's hand tightly. "Are you sure this is going to work?" "It will, my love. God didn't bring us this far for nothing." She sat quietly in the waiting room as the medical team took him away. As the doors closed behind him, a sharp pain shot through her spine. She nearly fell out of the chair. Her body cried out for help, but her soul was calm. She knew that from here on, it was no longer in her hands. The surgery took nearly 6 hours. Every minute felt like an eternity. She had no strength to walk, so she remained seated the whole time, squeezing a handkerchief soaked from being twisted over and over. When the doctor finally appeared, Mary stood with difficulty. He smiled. The surgery was a success. Now we wait for the recovery process. With some luck, in a few days he'll begin to see shadows, light, and then the whole world again. Mary closed her eyes and whispered a heartfelt, "Thank you," then collapsed back into the chair, as if her body had finally been granted permission to rest. 2 weeks later, with Andrew already home, the family organized a small celebration. In Mary's cramped living room were her sister, her older brother, and 4 noisy nephews running between the chairs. It was a simple party, with homemade cake, soda, and lots of laughter. Andrew, his eyes still sensitive to light, wore sunglasses and sat beside his mother, quietly observing everything, with a soft smile. "Aunt Mary, you're not using crutches anymore?" asked one of the nephews. Curious. She smiled and replied, "I think my body got tired of relying on them. Now I'm trying to get back up on my own." No one questioned it. After all, Mary was standing, walking slowly, leaning on furniture, but there, strong, alive, present. While everyone chatted, someone knocked on the door. 3 knocks, steady, firm. Mary, with slow steps, walked over and opened it. Outside stood a tall man in a well-tailored suit, tense expression, and teary eyes. She frowned, not recognizing him. "Ma'am, are you the woman who was at the pawn shop 2 Fridays ago?" Mary's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, I am. Why?" The man glanced into the house, where the party was happening, then back at Mary. I saw you walk into the shop, saw how hard it was for you to move, saw you crying, and I saw you leave without your crutches. It hit me hard. I couldn't stop thinking about it." Mary swallowed hard. The family began to gather near the door. Curious, I'm sorry to intrude, but I need to know. Why did you sell your only crutch? Silence fell over the room. Everyone was in shock. Andrew slowly stood, feeling a lump in his chest. Mary took a deep breath and finally spoke. I was $100 short to pay for my son's surgery. I tried everything. I cleaned houses, sold our belongings, ran campaigns. But at the last minute, I was still short. I did what any mother would do. Her sister covered her mouth with her hands. Her brother began to cry. Andrew stood silently, eyes fixed on her. You sold your crutch? For me? Mary nodded, a sad smile on her face. And I'd do it again, if I had to. The man at the door took a deep breath, visibly shaken. My name is Thomas. I'm a businessman. I work in medical technology. That night, I was wandering aimlessly after losing my father. I was in crisis. Life felt meaningless, but seeing what you did changed me. It woke me up. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost. Purpose. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and held it out to Mary. This is a check. $1 million. It's for you to heal, care for your health, your family, and continue being the kind of woman this world needs. And more, if you accept. I want you to come work with me, at my home. I need someone like you close to me. I want you to be the house manager of my estate. You'll live well, comfortably, and you'll never go through something like this alone again. Mary couldn't answer. She broke down in tears. Everyone around her did too. Andrew ran and hugged her tightly. The man smiled, emotional, eyes glistening. You have no idea how much good you've done for me. Thank you for existing. The silence that filled the room was one of those you hear with your heart. For a few moments, no one dared to move. Mary still held the envelope in trembling hands, as if holding something unreal. It was more than a check. It was the universe's answer. It was recognition for a fight fought in silence, in the cold, in the dark hours of the night. I don't know what to say, she whispered, teary-eyed. I never thought anyone would notice. Thomas stepped forward and spoke with a trembling voice. So many people walk through our lives, and we never see them. But some people, some actions, they shout. You shouted without saying a word. Mary, and the world needs to hear it. Andrew held his mother's hand tightly, as if he too needed to remind himself this was real. He couldn't speak. He just cried. But in his eyes was a new light, not from the surgery, but from gratitude, from reverence. Mary's sister hugged her tightly. Her brother, usually quiet, murmured something like, "You're our hero." The nephews stopped running and watched the scene in silence, their young eyes curious and moved, even if they didn't fully understand what was happening. Mary, still trembling, took a deep breath and looked at Thomas with a serene smile. I accept, but not because of the money. I accept because maybe this is the first time someone offers me something, not for what I have, but for who I am. Thomas nodded, emotional. That's exactly why. That same weekend, Mary received a new crutch, custom-made, with special support and cutting-edge technology. A gift from Thomas. But more than anything, she received something far rarer. Rest, peace, respect. In time, everything changed. The modest house was replaced by a new home, comfortable and adapted. Andrew went back to studying music and started posting inspiring videos online, telling his mother's story. The campaign that once raised donations now spread hope. And Mary walked every day in the garden of her new home, first with her new crutch, then with less and less support. Her health improved. Her spirit grew stronger. Deep down, she had always known she didn't need recognition or awards, but receiving love, in return, after giving so much, was something she never expected. One quiet afternoon, while tending flowers by the mansion's pool, Thomas approached and said, "You know what I learned from you, Mary." She smiled without stopping what she was doing. What? That the greatest wealth a person can have is being someone else's reason to hope. Mary smiled, her eyes shining, and replied, "And the greatest joy in the world is knowing it was worth not giving up." If this story made you cry, smile, or simply reminded you of the immense strength that lives inside a mother, then I gently ask, subscribe to our channel. Mary's story isn't just about sacrifice. It's about unconditional love, silent courage, and everything a brave mother is capable of doing for her child. Every like, every comment, every share is like a hug we give to all the invisible mothers out there, fighting in the dark, with hearts full of light. You're part of this, and you're more than welcome here.